I'm the only one doing the paper. Okay, it's 9:02, and we're gonna call this great Economic Development Committee meeting to order. And could I get approval of the minutes?
Second.
Got a motion, a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Ayes carry. Okay, Mr. Carl Zabakowski, the Mayflower Building. I know it shouldn't take no 20 minutes, but there's not that much to talk about, but go ahead, take your best shot, Carl.
Thought it was, oh, I can drag it out.
No.
I guess with the term Mayflower, you would expect something really historic, but this building was actually put together and was built in 1965. It's as a headquarters building for an insurance company. It's been vacant for 10 years, and it's going to be redeveloped as a residential mixed-use project. If you'll go to slide number 3, it just talks, it's in the Downtown Connection TIF that was set up in 2005 for 30 years. It has a budget of about $515 million. Covers various parts of downtown. It was the second TIF that was put into place in the downtown area. Go over to slide number 4. It just shows you a newspaper rendering of the building back in the early 60s. On the next page, just shows you the location of the building. It's that little blue spot there in the middle of the slide. That's a whole city block bounded by Ackerd, Federal, Field, and Patterson. It's adjacent to the old Lincoln Plaza that's now the Ross Tower. Go over to the next page, just give you a brief description of the project. 215 residential units, 20% or 43 of them are going to be affordable. About 14,000 square feet of retail restaurant space on the ground floor. The second and third floors are going to be converted to 216 parking spaces for building residents. The existing parking or subterranean parking spaces really belong to the owner of Ross Tower, who's the seller of this building, and those spaces will be utilized for, or will continue to be utilized for the office residents at Ross Tower. The cost of the renovation is about $56 million. They're looking to start construction in September of this year, look to finish it by June of 2017. Have met with the Urban Design Peer Review Panel in October and found it to be something that they felt very good about. And the developer has applied for both federal and state historic tax credits. Next page, I just talked to you a bit about the developer. I think you're familiar with them. Historic Restoration, Inc., better known as HRI Properties, New Orleans-based, done a lot of adaptive reuse and historic structures. You know them from the current ongoing redevelopment of 1600 Pacific. That's one of 70 projects, over $2 billion that they're doing nationwide. On to the next page, just look at the budget, and you can see that there's actually going to be 56% equity in the building, including 18% from the developer and then 32% from the historic tax credits. And then there'll be another 43% debt. If we look on the next slide, you can see that the proposed TIF funding is $10 million. That's about 17.8%, 18% of the total cost. Most of that is going to be for demo and abatement, restoration of the historic facade and some streetscape and utilities. There's also $1 million from the an affordable housing budget that we had, and the reason that we're recommending this is that they're putting an additional 10% of affordable housing. The minimum in the downtown is 10, and they're going to put 20% in. All of these incentives will be reimbursable at CO or as soon as the money becomes available within the TIF. The details, additional details on this you could find in Appendix B of the TIF requirements. Just next slide, on slide 10, just shows the TIF board approval, both in December and then also again in just last week, they approved some additional design revisions. Why do we think it's important? Obviously, activating a vacant building that's been vacant for 10 years adds to the residential population downtown, more affordable units, and also activates ground floor space in a busy pedestrian area, which we think will be very beneficial to the downtown. Just on the next slide just shows you the remaining downtown projects and priorities. We have about $33 million left in the budget. And you can see two big blocks, one which is the Ross Field project, which is owned by Headington, and then the Spire project, which is over on the eastern side of town. Those are the two boxes. The Praetorian block, which is also owned by Headington, and 500 South Hervé, which is right here next to the downtown, to our city hall. So our request is that this committee approve the $10 million reimbursement for consideration for council on February 25th. That concludes my presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Carl, on our TIF fund, in this particular TIF funding district, how much we have left?
$33 million.
And that
including, if this request is approved, we'll have $33 million left.
And what else, what other project do we have coming up that they're going to be asking for some TIF money?
Well, if you look on, I guess it's slide number 12, that shows the main properties. There's the project, actually the building here right next to City Hall, 500 South Hervé, is one that has already been approved for $5 million. They've had conversations with us about increasing that amount, and we're still working through that one. That's the only specific deal that we've been talking about, but the two, the Spire property and also the Ross Field projects are large land assemblages that we know that at some time in the future we'll be looking at. I think what we may need to do in the future, I mean, something for council consideration, is we have a lot of increment being generated in this TIF, so we may look at increasing the budget sometime in the future if that's merited, depending on how these future projects shake out. But we just have $33 million left.
And that boundaries is what? Do you have a slide of the boundaries?
Well, all those areas shaded in gray.
Right.
I mean, it's very confusing.
Yeah.
I mean, when we set this TIF up, the reason that we did it, the city center TIF was in place. It was, the values were fluctuating back and forth, and we said, gee, if we want to be able to redevelop our downtown core, we're going to have to find some increment. So we really married it up with the properties on the north side of Woodall Rogers. That's why you see all that gray area to the north, and that's what has driven the increment for this, the tax increment for this TIF.
Do that back up to the farmer's market?
It does. It's sort of adjacent. We have a separate farmer's market TIF. So we have a lot of TIFs in the area. Right.
You know, I was just trying to find out the boundaries. I just, you know, I know this map kind of shaded, but if you can give us the boundaries, all the TIF downtown, and how they back up,
Boy,
I mean, I don't need it right now, but my main concern is in the future, we're talking about the Cedars, we're trying to do the Cedars, we're trying to do the Farmers Market, we still got the Victory over there, we got Lamar, and we got the Art District, got Uptown, we got all these going at the same time, and I want to know what is in which tip to generate what and how we have a master plan.
we can do that. All I'm pointing out to you is that this TIF is very
Yeah.
difficult to, but we can show you how they relate
know,
to each
yeah,
other. That's,
yeah.
and put them in different colors so you can
Right, it's
understand it.
kind of hard to
Sure,
imagine.
sure.
On the state historic tax credit, do you know what the timeline is at and what is that amount?
Well,
I see the amount, but it's not guaranteed that amount going to be there.
I think it's pretty certain that it will happen. I mean, since the state has modified its laws, I will tell you that state historic tax credit has made, I think it's going to make the 500 South Hervé building viable. It was very, very helpful with the Statler Hilton.
Right.
As with the 1600 Pacific. So, it's something that has been very helpful to the redevelopment of the downtown.
And do you know the timeline on this?
I imagine within the next, over the course of the next 6 months, since they're targeting September start, and these guys are really expert at historical redevelopment, so I feel very comfortable with that.
And also the affordable houses. With me, I always ask for the plan, how they're going to be laid out. So can you make sure you give us before, let's go to council, the layout where the affordable houses are going to be?
Absolutely, because the requirement is that they be distributed.
I know that, but
Yes.
I always said I like to see the
Yep.
layout.
Sure.
Give me the plan so I know where they're going to be.
Happy to do that.
Before we go to council.
We'll get that to you.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak? Oh, Rick?
Yeah, Carl, there's 156 parking spaces. Exactly where are those at? I didn't see that on the map.
Well, I think there are 216, and those parking spaces are going to be on the second and third floor of this building. In other words, they're going to take, the floor plates are about 45,000 square feet, and so they're going to take the second and third floors, and that's where those parking spaces are going to be. The 760 are subterranean.
Yeah.
And are not going to be for use of the residents.
Okay, and just walk me through the Texas Historic Tax Credit Program. How does that work? I understand the federal, but I don't understand the state.
I don't know all the details of that program, but I'll be happy to get that for you if you'd like.
Yeah, just maybe something quick on the federal and the state, and then
Sure,
I'll just review
sure.
those. Thanks.
Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation, Carl. How will the affordable housing be secured? Performance?
There's going to be deed restrictions.
Deed restrictions, okay. The other would be, on the affordable, what's the size of the affordable units?
Well, the average unit size of this property are about 800 square feet, and the affordable units will be distributed evenly throughout the project.
So one-bedroom affordable units?
I don't know, Tamara, do you have a specific? Come on up here, Tamara, so that everybody can. This is Tamara Leak. She's the senior coordinator and handles all of our downtown projects. So.
Good morning. The average size of the one-bedroom affordable units is 683 units, and the average...
on the record, please?
Sure. The average size of the...
Is that on?
Is it on?
Yeah.
It's green. The average size for the one-bedroom is 623 square feet, and the average size for the two bedrooms are 988 square feet.
How many of each are affordable?
The 37, there will be 37 one-bedroom affordable units, and there will be 6 one-bedroom, 6 two-bedroom units.
So is the ratio-wise, is there the same ratio of single-bedroom and 2 bedrooms, so that, what's the total number of?
The total number
single-
of units is 215. Of those, the penthouses, which there are about 15, are not required because they're specialty type units, are not required for the affordable housing, but the remaining 200 units meet the affordable housing, or they will do 20% of the affordable housing. 10% of each bedroom type is required for the affordable units.
Okay.
And in this case, it's actually 20% of each bedroom type.
And then for the rents, this being affordable, is this going to be at 80%?
It is at 80%.
How does the 80% compare to downtown market rate currently?
Well, the average rent that they have showing for the one-bedrooms at 80% of AMI is $892, which, $892,
So 892 is 80%?
yes,
Okay. And that's for a one-bedroom?
yes.
So what are we working out there, like $1 and a quarter?
$1.43.
$1.43 a square foot? What's the current market rate downtown?
It's around 160, in the 160s.
So the market
Highest
rate
175.
apartments
175.
in the same place are going to sell for, rent for $1.60 a square foot?
$1.63 for the one-bedrooms and $1.68 for the two-bedrooms.
Okay, and then for the affordable, you get a discount of 20 cents a square foot down to $1.43?
Well, it's just that you have to have people that qualify at 80% of area median income, and as long as they qualify, they pay for those units.
I understand there's a qualification
Yeah.
process. And then,
I think the deeper discount is when you look at the two-bedroom units in comparison to the affordable rate, which is $1.07, but for market rate, it's actually $1.68. And so.
so how much does the two-bedroom affordable apartment rent for each month?
$1,058,
Okay.
as opposed to $1,900 market rate.
Okay, thank you.
Building on those questions about affordability and affordable, and the 80% of downtown, what does that equate to on a salary-wise? $45,000 a year, $40,000 a year?
That sounds about right.
Okay. Carl, you have any idea about what 80% of the average income downtown would equate to? School teacher?
Probably, it could be school teacher, it could be police and firemen, it could be any kind of, some of the lower professional levels of office workers.
So, but any way you cut it, it's 40,000 plus.
Yes.
Okay, would be somebody making 25,000 probably would not be able to afford that, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I just, to me, that's somewhat of an interesting point. Not that I have an issue one way or the other with it when it comes to affordable housing, because we have it spread out all throughout the city itself. And, we spend a lot of energy with these 43 units and stuff, and a lot of extra money for the 43 units that are downtown, and 43 is a very small number compared to the overall big picture that's out there, but yet we harp on it quite a bit, and it's, and if I was around longer, hopefully we could eventually change that conversation to a deeper conversation, but I don't know if that'll ever happen. So anyway, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Kleiman?
Thank you, and I'm glad we see this building getting activated and getting built out and bring more residential to downtown. As we bring more residential downtown, one concern I always have is green space and park. And this particular corner of downtown really does not have much. I mean, it's, you could say, well, it's kind of between Below Garden and Clyde Warren, but it's about halfway between. It's a pretty good haul to either of them. When I look at the aerial, I see a lot of surface parking in this area. What are we doing to try to provide some green space that's really adjacent to some of these new developments like this?
Well, we do, one of the things, one of the reasons that we have the peer review committee is to try to be able to bring not only green space, but pedestrian activation and access. This was a pretty tough site to bring. I mean, there really wasn't much space available, but we, I think, have looked at pocket parks. We've looked at opportunities. Carl, you might have something to add to that.
Mr. Kleiman, I think you raised a real good point. This site and a lot of the buildings that were built in the same era didn't pay a lot of attention to green space. What we've tried to do is add some landscaping on the north side of the building. The building had 2 large vents on the corners. What page is the?
It's on page 7.
Page 7.
Maybe let's try page 6.
Try page 6. That were vents for the parking structure. The developer has worked with our code people to be able to take those down to sidewalk level. Right now, they're a big thing, and that'll create a couple kind of mini plazas. When we did the Hart Furniture Building, which is kind of across the street from this, we worked with that developer and First Baptist to put in a little pocket park across the street there and clean up an area.
I was on Park Board when that went on.
Yeah.
That's,
And that's,
that doesn't count in my book.
Okay. I think the other thing
Barely
that
there.
we'll look at is, we mentioned the assembly that is across the street to the north, the Headington Assembly, and then also the Spire Assembly. I think it's going to be real important as the city looks at both of those to be sure to incorporate open space into both those projects.
Does this TIF allow for land acquisition for open space or park space?
I think there's some money in that budget, but we haven't used it yet.
I think there's money budgeted. The issue always with TIFs like this is there's not a lot of ready cash. That, we have ability to pay things back, but we have so many projects in the Downtown Connection TIF district that ones like this, by the time we get to paying them, it'll be way down the road. And
Right, but I mean, if a developer or a few developers see the benefit of being right on a park, for example, they can front the money and get reimbursed for it in this.
They could. There's about, I was just looking back on slide number 20, it shows that there's about $3.2 million in that budget.
It's
Now,
not even an acre in downtown.
yeah.
which is not, which could be significant, but the issue has been, as Carl pointed out, you were looking 15 years down the road to be able to get some money, so it's the same issue that we run into with Midtown.
Right. Well, I think that as y'all work on future projects in downtown, really looking for opportunities to convert some of the surface lots into some even pocket parks, grabbing another acre adjacent to one of these projects and finding a developer that's willing to put the money up front, because there is real value to them by having, even an acre-sized park right adjacent to it.
One of
So
the
just kind of keep that in the mix and not on the bottom line of the last page of the appendix.
Well, to that point, we're looking at a refresh of the Downtown 360 plan, and have talked about integrating the park master plan, Park and Rec in that whole mix, because you also, that also brings up the issue of needed parking downtown, because as you take away these surface lots, why there's a need to be able to create something structured that would be more efficient. So all that comes into play.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Kingston?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let's start with the last point you made first, Carl. Downtown is overparked, severely overparked, and the idea that we need more parking downtown is not correct. Did I hear you say that the 500 South Irving guys had been back for more money?
Mr. Kingston, actually, you and I and Mr. Madrano were privy to that conversation. That was the discussion when they asked to receive the increment that they create, and the number was going to go from 5 million to 10 million.
And the last thing that that Mr. Siramsaki said to us was, "This is good. I'm not coming back to ask for more," right?
That is what he told us.
Okay, good. Because we made kind of an exception to be able to do that building because it wasn't on the priority list and it's not really in the core, but it's an important project because it sits right next to City Hall and we need some southern downtown development, right?
Mr. Kingston, that is correct. They were trying to make the point that they were under-subsidized as it relates to some of the core projects, but we did recognize the importance of the building, and so that's why the 10 million came from.
Okay, and I don't want to repeat what Mr. Kleinman said, just know that I share his concerns about park and open space. I thought those were very good comments. In terms of the affordable component of this project, did we get any kind of guidance from HUD when we got our settlement? I don't know if it's a settlement or what, but when we resolved whatever dispute we were having with them, did we get some kind of guidance about whether a project like this in the future was going to be counted toward our commitment to affordable housing?
My understanding of that agreement, and I don't know whether we have finalized everything, but what my understanding is that any kind of city subsidy, whether it would be TIF or tax abatement or any kind of grant, if it were applied to any kind of residential project, that there would be an affordability requirement. Now, right now, that affordability requirement, the only one that we have, is 10% for downtown, and we have been applying 20% to the TIFs outside of the downtown area. So the other thing that we agreed to was to make sure that there was an even distribution of affordable units.
The reason I ask is because this is exactly the kind of affordable component to a development that was specifically cited in the HUD letter we got in November of 2013 as not meeting the federal guidelines for a commitment to affordable housing. This is exactly the kind of thing that they said, that they accused us of gaming the system by saying that having a 10% requirement for 80% AMFI just doesn't really, it's not consistent with actual affordable housing. And I think when you look at what the income requirement is going to be to qualify for $140 a square foot property, it is going to be in the $45,000 a year range. I think Mr. Allen was exactly on the money on that. And I want as many $45,000 a year earners as I can get in downtown. I'll take all of them. But I don't think I think a young person making $45,000 a year is probably, you know, a young professional on his or her way up. And so it doesn't, while I'm excited about this project, I want it to go forward, I just have a concern that we're going to run afoul of HUD again. Do we have a plan for addressing that?
Mr. Kingston, we're now going to, this equitable affordability requirement, all these tax increment financing districts, and the attorneys that worked on the issue with housing and urban development have bought off on that particular strategy. We can, in the federal, when we do the federal requirements, as Mr. Griggs knows, those even go deeper in terms of the affordability requirements. So we have the federal requirements and we have the local requirements. And so, and we are distributing them evenly. And so we do believe that meets the test.
Okay. I trust you on that, Ryan. I just want to make sure, because this looks exactly like what they cited in the letter.
Mr. Kingston, if I can add to that, part of the problems that Housing and Urban Development had with some of the previous affordable projects was that we allowed the developers to pay off their notes and release the deed restrictions. And so whereas they did have affordable requirements to begin with, we released them and then reapplied the affordable dollar somewhere else in the city. And that they did have some issues with that.
That's an excellent point, Ryan. Thank you. One last little thing. This is nitpicky. Can we find a different name for Praetorian Block, since the Praetorian has been a pile of rubble for 5 years?
Mr. Kingston, we
You
can do...
can't tear that building down and continue to call it the Praetorian Block.
Mr. Kingston will come up with a different name for our map.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Any other question? Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes carried. These upcoming items, colleagues, I know y'all did y'all homework and read everything. Is anyone having a question on any of these? 1401 Elm Street, the TIP Development Agreement, Chapter 380 grant with the Bishop Art, and the TIF annuity report. I just have one question. Is there any reason why we changing the Bishop Art Village to LLC?
Why we're changing the name?
Why?
I think the developer just made a name change.
It's not legal, nothing.
No.
But I'm just wonder why, it's LLC.
No, I think that just was a routine name change. I didn't know that there was any particular importance attached to it.
Do you ask?
Well, I mean, this happens.
Will you ask?
I will ask, yes.
Okay, Lee.
Thank you. I have some questions about both of these, but let's start with 1401. So I noticed that we're making some amendments here. First of all, with regards to the requirement of non-residential space, kind of loosening the specifications there, and I guess that's fine as long as it's non-residential. I is concerned that we're removing this outdoor public plaza and that we are extending the date under which they can complete the project. What are we getting back in return for that? I mean, when we negotiate a deal up front, it seems like we have kind of equilibrium, and now the developers come back and changing the deal, so what are we getting back in return?
The answer to your question is we're not getting anything back specifically. When you get into a major adaptive reuse project like this, I think that these are normal type of changes, so I didn't feel the need to negotiate something relative to this. I mean, in terms of the 65,000 square feet, I think as they looked at the configuration, might want to try to bring a grocer downtown, and that just allowed for more flexibility. As far as the ninth floor space, they very much wanted to do that. We got into our requirements relative to public access requirements and everything, and it was taking out big chunks of usable space. It just wasn't feasible. So it was a good idea, but they didn't want to do it, or they couldn't execute. The last question relative to the extension, they've probably had $20 or $30 million worth of abatement in the building, which is just, I think, was more than they had anticipated, and that's what's caused the delay.
And similar with regards to the extension on the other project, it just seems like we frequently see these extensions coming forward, and a lot of the reasons given, I would consider those like a YP, not an MP, and if like that's your problem, we have a, not my problem. If you have abatement, you should have known abatement was there before you came to us with an agreement. And so I just would like us to be either more realistic on the timing when we grant these, unless unless you're telling me there's like some requirement, we can only give them for so long, and then we have to give an extension, but it just, I don't know.
Here
It
would
just
be
seems
my...
like it's ongoing, we do a lot of these.
One of the things that I noticed, in contrast to my former life as a banker, usually when things came to me at a bank, all of the kinds of issues that we're talking about here had already been resolved. You could pretty well nail down the timeframes, and if somebody asked you for an extension, you charged them a fee. In this case, or in a lot of other cases, when we're considering them for TIF help, a lot of times it's at a pretty preliminary timeframe, and you're wanting to get the public support commitment out early to be able to help facilitate financing. And so it's really quite normal to have these kinds of requests as long as they're legitimate.
Okay, and I appreciate that, and I think that I want to see these projects continue and be successful. There's no question there. So thank you for the feedback.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am very concerned about these. I really don't mind the loosening the restrictions on the non-residential space. I think the applicant's broker has said some very injudicious things in the media. He might watch his tongue a little bit on that. But the loss of the outdoor space, that was the selling point for this project. I mean, second to reactivating a vacant building, that was what everybody was looking forward to, and that's severely concerning that they want out of that. What's their rationale?
I think that they would have liked to have done that. The issue, and the developer is here, and as is the architect, and they can further address that, but I think as they went and got down into the plans and looked at the public access requirements, if you were going to have a restaurant and public space there, took out, a significant portion of space affected feasibility. But I can let the architect and the developer address that if you'd like.
Sure. I just want the information.
Hi, Amy Sanborn with Merriman Architects. Brian Dorsey is behind me with Olympic. Sorry, I'm a little ill, so I hope you can understand me.
Down just a little bit, yeah.
Sure. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. In the initial proposal, we did have every intent to provide a public plaza, and the public plaza came with a restaurant component. We were anticipating putting a restaurant on the east end of the building on the 9th floor deck there and providing public access to it. Really, the issue became that the building currently is equipped with, four stairs that three stairs that currently access grade to the 9th floor, that podium deck. And we are currently adding 2 additional stairs to that. The issue is that the occupancy load dictated by the International Building Code for a restaurant and bar space is 5 square feet per person to 15 square feet per person, depending on the allocations of the area for bar and for restaurant space. That drove our occupancy load so high that we would need to basically add 5 more stairs to the building to make this work. The secondary plan, and we currently are adding 2 new stairs to the building, and even that was really a logistical kind of nightmare to get the stair from the 9th floor down through several different uses of the building, such as parking, retail, office, and egress to the exterior as required by code. So therefore, the second look that we did was we basically tried to back into the occupancy load. Okay, we can provide 2 more stairs. What can we do to this 9th floor deck so that we can provide egress that meets the code requirement? And so in order to do that, we took up the north side of the building with terrace units, which is really a good use for the space. It makes sense. It's residential use. That occupancy load is only 200 square feet per person. So you can see the difference between 5 square feet per person and 200 square feet per person. And it gets very convoluted, but there's there's basically in the code a requirement of egress width per each occupant. So if you have 100 square feet of restaurant space, 200 square feet, you have an egress load of 5 people, and then you multiply that by a factor to get your egress width. If you have that same 100 square feet and you have a restaurant space or a bar space and it's 5 square feet per person, so then your load is 20 at that point. So your egress width is exponentially more. In that case scenario, 5 times, pretty much more. So it just became incompatible with the design. We really, really wanted to see that happen, and we're doing our very best to make every possible modification to the building to provide some really fantastic retail and restaurant space at the lower levels.
So the issue is emergency egress,
Yes, sir.
and there are no options other than internal stairways?
No, that's correct. Elevators do not suffice per the IBC for egress, neither does escalators. The only thing that is allowable there is a change of use or additional egress width.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, with that, do I have a motion to move these items forward?
I so move.
Okay, have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. And opposed? Aye, carry. Is there any other business today? Okay, it's 9:43. The Economic Development Committee is in close, comes to a close. Thank you.
Let's run those numbers, because they're going to ask us again.
Oh.
Okay.
I think from now on, that's going to be
Yeah, I think just.
I think that now starts to be, you can see where that